Welcome back to This Day in Irish History. I'm your host, Raymond Welsh. Before we dive into today's story, if you'd like to explore other significant events that happened on this day in Irish history, visit thisdayirishhistory.com. The link is in the episode description. Now let's journey back to March 30th, 1603, when Hugh O'Neill, the Earl of Tyrone, submitted to Charles Blount, Lord Mountjoy, at Mellifont Abbey, bringing an official end to the 9 Years' War and setting the stage for one of the most profound transformations in Irish history. To understand the significance of this moment, we need to rewind to the late 16th century. Ireland was a fractured land. Gaelic chieftains ruled vast territories independently of the English crown, especially in Ulster, where traditional Gaelic society still thrived. But this era of local rule was increasingly under threat. Queen Elizabeth I's government was determined to consolidate English authority across the entire island, and in doing so, to dismantle the Gaelic order that had dominated Irish life for centuries. Hugh O'Neill, an Anglo-Irish noble who had been raised partly within the English system, became a figure of immense complexity. On one hand, he was granted the English title of Earl of Tyrone. On the other, he was steeped in the traditions and loyalties of Gaelic Ireland. By the 1590s, O'Neill had emerged as the central leader in a broad Gaelic resistance to English encroachment, rallying Irish lords across the island in what would become known as the 9 Years' War. The conflict began in 1594 and quickly escalated into one of the most intense and far-reaching wars in Irish history. It was not merely a rebellion, but a calculated, coordinated campaign to drive the English out of Ireland. O'Neill, along with his key ally Hugh O'Donnell, waged a formidable guerrilla campaign, employing superior knowledge of the terrain and a disciplined fighting force trained in European-style warfare. They gained a series of early victories and even secured support from Spain, England's longtime rival. But the tide began to turn after the pivotal Battle of Kinsale in 1601. A Spanish force had landed in southern Ireland to aid the Irish cause, but was quickly surrounded by English troops under Lord Mountjoy. O'Neill and O'Donnell marched south to relieve them, but were defeated in a devastating engagement that shattered the hopes of a Gaelic victory. From that point forward, the resistance began to unravel. By 1603, the war had dragged on for 9 brutal years, leaving much of Ireland, especially Ulster, in ruins. English forces had scorched the land, destroyed crops, and displaced thousands. O'Neill, recognizing the futility of further resistance, sought peace. And so, on March 30th, 1603, he rode to Mellifont Abbey in County Louth, where he formally submitted to Mountjoy. It was a sombre and symbolic moment. The great Gaelic Lord of Ulster, bending the knee in what had once been a bastion of Irish Catholic spirituality, now repurposed as an English garrison. O'Neill's submission was marked by irony and tragic timing. Unbeknownst to him, Queen Elizabeth had died just 6 days earlier on March 24th. Her successor, King James VI of Scotland, now James I of England, would take a somewhat more conciliatory approach to Irish affairs, at least initially, but the damage was done. The old Gaelic order had lost its greatest champion. In the short term, O'Neill was granted surprisingly lenient terms. He retained his title and lands and was welcomed back into the fold. But the peace was uneasy and short-lived. The following years saw the increasing erosion of Gaelic power, culminating in the infamous flight of the Earls in 1607, when O'Neill and other Gaelic nobles fled Ireland, hoping to muster foreign support that never came. Their departure left a vacuum, which the English quickly filled with the Plantation of Ulster, a massive colonial project that brought thousands of English and Scottish settlers into the north of Ireland. The submission at Mellifont, then, was far more than a peace treaty. It was a watershed moment, the symbolic end of an era in which Gaelic chieftains ruled as sovereign lords over their territories. It marked the beginning of a new, often painful chapter in Irish history, defined by dispossession, colonization, and the gradual Anglicization of Ireland's political and cultural landscape. Hugh O'Neill's legacy remains complex. Some view him as a tragic hero, the last great defender of Gaelic Ireland. Others see his surrender as a necessary, if heartbreaking, act of pragmatism in the face of overwhelming odds. But there is no denying that March 30th, 1603, was one of the most consequential days in Ireland's long and turbulent past. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Ireland's rich past. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, I'm Raymond Welsh. Slán go foil.